Morning, everyone. We'll call the commission to order and begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation by the chairman. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dear God, we give you thanks for this day. We ask for rain, if it be your will. Also be with us today and give us guidance and counsel and wisdom, the strength to do what is right. Help us to help those who can't help themselves, and also be with us as we ponder the needs of our community through the hearings of these outside agencies. In your name we pray. Amen. Amen. I don't have any chair comments this morning. On our agenda, we have a public comment period. Is there anybody who wishes to address the board for public comment? Hearing none, then we'll proceed to the business items. One of the things that I would like to do is amend the agenda on business items to include consideration. The administrator wants to take a day off, and we probably ought to decide that collectively as a group. So
you want to do that now?
Yeah, let's just do it now.
I move that we allow him to finish his housing details.
Can we amend the
Get out
agenda,
of,
sir?
okay. Okay,
Amend the agenda, and I'll second.
so moved.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Now, Commissioner Jones.
I move that we allow Gary to take a day off with pay
On Friday.
Friday.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we've got that detail. Thank you, Gary, which is in recognition of all the hard work. We appreciate the progress that's being made.
And we have one other amendment to the agenda I think we discussed regarding the, some questions regarding the county administrator that we need to pass on.
Okay, that's correct. Is there a motion to amend the agenda to include the prospective brochure pay guidelines outlines for the county administrator?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to amend the agenda to include brochure items for the county administrator search team. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let's take that up right now. You had sent out a proposed email that had a pay range on it.
That is one of the items, the annual pay range that you're willing to post into the brochure would be one item. Residency would be another item. And also, any relocation reimbursement or compensation for travel would be another item. The other one that they did ask about is our mission, vision, and goals. And of course, you have recently talked about that. You haven't officially adopted it, but I think we're far enough along. Probably we could provide that information to them if you're okay with that.
Very good.
Commissioner German, you've kind of taken the lead on this. What's your recommendation?
I have. We talked about a range for salary, and I don't know if we want to, I'll defer to Gary, whether you offer a certain amount or just offer a range commensurate with experience.
That's what I would do. I would establish a range, and then it would be all these kinds of parts of the contract would be negotiable, but based on their experience and qualifications. I would probably set forth a range.
Okay. And we wanted to make that comparable to Matt Allen's pay.
I believe that was the indication, yes.
So I think a range that I would propose would be 185 to 195.
If I could, I think that we should bundle all these into one motion
Sure.
and go on.
You bet.
I think the residency requirement is
Yes,
mandatory.
yes,
just from
to
my
require that
position.
they live within the county.
Do you give are you gonna give a time that they get moved and establish residency? Because, they may not be able to find a housing right away or something if it's somebody from outside the county moving in.
How long do you think would be reasonable?
I don't know, what 6 months?
Most of the time, what I see is 6 months to a year, depending upon, because if you do have somebody that would be somewhat close by, they might,
They
it might take a
finishing
little.
up a school year for kiddos and those
Right.
type of things. So let's say a year. We don't want to limit the number of folks that want to look at this.
I agree.
I think that's reasonable. And then I would propose a $10,000 relocation bonus, or whatever you want to call that, moving bonus, moving expenses.
Okay.
I was just asking Vicki a question out loud, which is, Commissioner, depending on where the person is coming from, the moving allowance of 10 may not be even close to the cost of making the move. So-
Exactly, yeah. We could
You could
make that negotiable.
negotiable, depending on how far they're moving and, what the size their move would be and that kind of thing.
So, Chairman, do you think a range would be more appropriate?
I just think that moving allowance is negotiable.
Okay.
Right. Any other factors you need in your brochure for the executive search?
I think that covers everything, and I appreciate you taking the time to do that. So
You want to, I've questioned, that's a pretty narrow range on salary, 10,000. What, you want a wider range?
What was Matt
85 to
Allen's?
95?
Matt is right now at 195. Of course, he's been there quite a while, so that's probably going to be your top end. I mean, you could say 180 to 195, something like that. It's whatever.
I just don't want to exclude candidates who,
Yeah.
well, that's not it, that's not my number. So why don't we just do 180 to 200 and,
Okay, yeah, that's,
180 to 200?
yes.
Okay.
I would entertain a motion for allowances in the executive brochure of a salary range of 180 to 200. Residency requirement within the county within 1 year of signing the contract, a moving allowance to be negotiable.
I have a question on is there a specific way to word the residency? Not just like, I guess, primary residence, something
Where
like
they,
that, as opposed to we're here some and there some.
we're here Monday to Friday and gone Saturday and Sunday, and, yeah.
Well, kind of here, because my lawyer hat coming off, sorry about it, but in this country, you have one domicile, you can have multiple residences.
Okay.
Your domicile is where you vote, and where you claim is your permanent residence.
Should we word it that way?
You can. I was not trying to be over-technical.
We've had this discussion. I think that would be better verbiage.
So we want to go with their primary residence / domicile.
Yes.
Do you make that motion then?
I make that motion, yes.
Thank you.
I'll
Sir.
second.
Been moved and seconded to have a brochure range of 180 to 200,000 in salary, permanent residence and primary residence, and domicile within the county within 1 year, and a moving allowance to be negotiable. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, we have a tight schedule today. I'm sorry to delay the first folks up, but let's get on with it.
Did we do public comment?
I did do public comment. Nobody was,
Okay.
Clerk, did anybody ask to speak? No. All right, very good. Good morning. Yes.
Morning, folks. My name is Don with the Western Kansas Child Advocacy Center. Okay, I'm trying not to break things today, but I can't promise anything. Again, here with the Western Kansas Child Advocacy Center. First and foremost, let me start off by saying we greatly appreciate your folks' support over the years, and just helping us be here and be an asset and be a resource for the children out here in Western Kansas or in Finney County specifically. We're kind of at a juncture point right now when it comes to funding in our grants that without your support, it'd be very difficult to kind of continue our work. We were affected by the previous executive order filed, if I remember correctly, end of February, that froze some federal grants. If I remember correctly, it was signed on a Thursday, rescinded on that following Monday. But in that time, we did receive a letter essentially stating, continue at your own risk. That particular one was from our medical program, which helps us to facilitate and staff our medical program, mainly geared towards performing sexual assault exams for children and also adults as well too. It facilitates both. And we do, in the event that someone is not available there at the hospital and our doctor is available, we're able to do those as well too. As y'all, so like I said, we greatly appreciate your folks' support. We haven't heard a definite whether that'll come down the road again, but we don't know for sure. We hear the murmurs. It'd be amazing if we had a timeline at least. Hey, maybe don't expect reimbursement from this particular grant. Third quarter last month kind of deal. I don't know that we'll receive that. Because I know that the way ours operates is reimbursement. I know some aren't that way, unfortunately, so I know that leaves some window for abuse. But like I said, we greatly appreciate your support. So to kind of reiterate what our agency does, I know you folks are very aware. We're the first response in conjunction with DCF and law enforcement when there is a report of child abuse reported in Finney County. Our agency assists with the forensic interviews, which essentially that's going to be the first initial contact with the child in a child-friendly space, essentially. So they're here in our office here in town, and one of our very, very well-trained interviewers. While our agency is interviewing the child, we also do have those other previous agencies on hand. The goal is one interview. First and foremost, not to re-traumatize that child, and then secondly, we would never want that child to feel like they did something wrong by coming forward. Nationwide, statistics are about 90% these children know who this individual is. They've had a relationship with them. They are family, friends, neighbors, somebody they've developed some sort of relationship with along the way through life. Nationwide, about 90%. Our agency, we said about 98% these children know this individual, so they care for them, unfortunately. Sometimes they care for them. They're their trusted friend or somebody they've looked up to, something like that. So we'd never want them to feel like they're upset for coming forward with kind of what's transpired. Like I said, we do audio and video recordings that are also available to any other folks that are tasked with keeping that child safe in the community, whether it be other advocate agencies in town or law enforcement, any other agencies, foster care, things like that as well too. They're able to receive that, kind of get some insight on what's going on, and the whole team essentially is better informed to keep that child safe. We do stay with the family throughout court process, providing advocacy, any support they might need throughout that time, also assisting county attorneys with small things. Hey, I can't seem to get this family on the line. Would you mind reaching out? Is it because, unfortunately, a lot of our cases are single-parent households? Are we facing a financial hardship where that we no longer have that particular phone? Have we moved? Or are communication dropped off because someone's back in the home that's not supposed to? And in the event that is, we do act accordingly and make that report as needed. We do stick with the families as well, too, regardless of the outcome of the court process, to provide therapy for that child as well, too. So kind of quick, Finney County this last year, to be 2024, we provided 110 interviews out here as well. And then we provided to 107 children 1,037 therapy sessions, so about an average about four a day per working day. And this is all free of cost to these children that are in our services as well too. And it's very vital that we have that to at least give them the building blocks for better ways to cope with trauma and not hopefully find some way to self-medicate. So the better we can the the better we can work with these children, give them safe ways to deal with their trauma, the better they are for the future of our community. 24 medical exams out in this area as well too. 247 children we provided advocacy, a total of 2,109 services, advocacy services. We've assisted with court advocacy 20 times and attended court 173 times. And when we attend court, it's at the request of the child. It's the advocate. It's also, if everything aligns correctly, which amazingly it has, the therapist can be also there with the child. In the event that the child has to testify, it's being in court for an adult is nerve-wracking, let alone for a child. Child who's facing someone who they care about that individual. I don't want, one of the comments that was made, I don't want to make trouble, and I don't want to see them go far away. And this is someone, like I said, they've developed that relationship with. But, that we have, like I said, our advocates, our therapists, hey, at least they're able to identify, hey, but we understand. But, this is, we talk a lot about difference between the truth and, surprise and a secret. This, secret is always going to hurt someone. This is a secret that wasn't, it's not. This is where we're at, and this was a secret. Look how much it's hurt you, it's hurt your mom, your parents, your trusted caregiver, so. But yeah, that's kind of our agency here, so.
All right, questions?
I have a question.
Absolutely.
Can you tell me how your services differ from those of CASA?
So first and foremost, the interview side of things. We're all very trauma-informed, trauma-based, essentially. So our interview side of things, we're involved with the interview. We're also able to be there kind of when they're about the same time during the court process as well, too, to provide advocacy, but then we're also able to continue to provide those services for therapy as well. We have the therapy services, the advocacy, and also our medical program as well, too. So with our medical program as well, in the event that, and it's a roundtable discussion, say for some reason during a therapy session, therapists might have a recommendation for some medication for the child, and it's, like, again, this is a roundtable discussion with parent, our executive director, and our doctor. If that's the route they want to go, we're able to provide that service as well, too. So we aid them, we're kind of complement each other, we have the same goals, do the best we can to keep children safe. But yes, like I said, the forensic interviews, our medical program that we have there, therapy, and then we do the advocacy as well, too, so.
Do you then assign like specific advocates per child, or is that then sort of shifted over to CASA, or?
We assign them in our office.
Okay.
It depends if a court-appointed advocate is assigned through CASA, we do work with them as well, too. We've worked several times in the event they had, hey, we'd like to see the interview. Absolutely, we can get that set up for you, and we'll obviously get you in contact with their advocate as well, too, and just, absolutely.
Thank you.
Can I answer that? Hope I answered that.
So, kind of wind things up, it appears that you're facing a dramatic change in funding from the feds,
Possibly,
possibly.
yes.
Do you have any idea of likelihood or probability?
We honestly didn't expect the first one, and that, like I said, that was rescinded. We don't know if there's one coming down the road. We speak of it, we just don't know for sure. And getting that letter was a little jarring, but I mean, we do the best we can to get ahead of these kind of things.
State funding took a big jump from one year to the next. What, did they change
Yes.
laws, or what was the?
So VOCA is one of our federal grants that we receive. Essentially, it's victim services. The federal was cut, and the state actually stepped in to assist with that gap.
Okay.
So they've actually helped us out quite a bit. So yes. So you'll see more on state. However, federal from that particular grant is that's where it unfortunately was. Yeah.
One more quick question.
Sure.
Do you interview juveniles when they're in the detention center? Once they're detained, are you guys involved?
If they're being charged, is that what you mean?
Well, if they're in the detention center, they're being confined, so.
Sure.
Somebody's.
To my knowledge, no. Unless there's any sort of report of abuse kind of been going on at home. That I know of, our agency's never been there at the juvenile center to interview, but that's to my knowledge. Usually, like I said, we use our office or one of our mobile units, but in the event that that's needed, hey, we have this, you know, we'd like this child interviewed. If there's things that maybe come forward as they're there at the juvenile detention center, and they pretty good about seeking out any other therapy or mental health services there at the juvenile detention center. But if we're needed, we would more than likely now we would be willing to, I'm sure.
I think the stickier part in that one is if they're in the juvenile detention center, they probably have counsel. And the attorney well, it's a counsel as in an attorney that's appointed or retained for them. And a lot of the times those attorneys don't want other people interviewing them to potentially get information that could be used against them in their criminal case.
Right. Your request for 2026 is 20,000, and in the past, during these hearings for outside agencies, we've taken that under advisement. So is there a motion?
So moved.
Been moved and seconded to take the budget request of Western Kansas Child Advocacy Center, the amount of $20,000 under advisement. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, folks. Have a good day.
Next up is the Finney County Museum. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning, everyone.
Please announce yourself for the viewing.
Sure, I'm Steve Quakenbush, Director of Finney County Historical Society, Finney County Museum. And we appreciate the chance to share with you a little of what we've done as you're considering funding for the year ahead. We have found ourselves doing two things at once all year, but maybe that's not so unusual. We're looking toward the future, and because of who we are, we're looking into the past. I wanted to just hit a few highlights of things we are looking forward on the horizon. We're in the process now. We began last year of developing a long-range plan for the museum. We are working with the Garden City Fire Department because there's a display space in the new fire station. We have a 17-foot-long wooden 1887 fire wagon that we're going to retain possession of, but it will be displayed long-term out there. So we're working with the fire department on that. Right now, with grant funds from the Finney Foundation, we're in the process of replacing all of our staff computers and our server. They're 9 years old, and it's just going to be in the nick of time, and especially in consideration of our server. Down the road, year after next, in 2026, we're going to be working with Garden City Arts for a unique exhibit to mark the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. We are hosting 4 changing exhibits this year and again next year. One of those that's on display right now focuses on the new bridge on South Main Street. That's the 4th bridge that's been in that location, going back to 1886. The first one was wooden and cost $1,000. Things have changed just a little bit. And again, in the 12 months to come, we're going to be hosting 21 different history-related events and activities. The secret is most of those celebrate history, but they also are conducted to raise funds. Now, we do about 14 free noon and evening history presentations, and those are not fundraisers. Those are just free programs for the public. We'll be doing a historical reenactment on our patio, an author signing with Dennis Garcia from Garden City on his new book. The 16th Annual Flea Market Festival, that's coming up July 12th. That's the biggest thing we do. Labor Day rib sale, fall history picnic with a historical speaker. The Valley View Cemetery walking tours. But we have a lot of involvement in the cemetery year-round, and our holiday open house is coming up too. There are, I think in the packet you got some photographs of a few things that we have done, and I think, you know, these are things that we will be doing. You can probably tell, we have been at, with your generosity, at a level of $220,000 the last 3 years, counting the current one. We're hoping for 222 this time, if that's at all doable. I do want to tell you a little bit about how we've been looking at the past. Over the past 24 months or 12 months, we've had Mark Twain here, portrayed by Ken Church, a gentleman from eastern Kansas. We were able to bring in Doug Adams. Doug is the great-great-grandson of Buffalo Jones, Garden City co-founder, and he's writing a book. And he's been here repeatedly to do research, but he did a very fascinating presentation for us. At those cemetery tours this past year, we got to share history with over 180 visitors. We did have free programs for the public on immigration to Finney County, events of 100 years ago, historic Kansas churches, the Finney Foundation's Oral History Project, and we're the grant administrator for that, Roadside Kansas, a lot of others. 5 Flags Over Kansas was the title of one. Southwest Kansas Archaeology with stone points and arrowheads and other artifacts that can be recovered and continue to be right here in Finney County. At the last flea market festival, we attracted, and we count, 3,144 people. They came from 40 towns across Kansas plus 3 surrounding states. We had 37 visiting vendors, and we're starting registration for this year's event right now. We also got to bestow just recently the 51st annual Finney County Pioneer Award. And this year that went to the Jess and Cora Smith family. In historical exhibits, 19,175 visitors came to the museum this past year. They came from 75 towns in Kansas, 16 other nations, and every state in the Union except Maryland, West Virginia, and New Hampshire. So if you know anybody in those states, tell them they need to come and see the museum. We had 1,500 folks last summer touring the William and Letty Fulton House, which is just southwest of the museum. We just recently had the Forgotten Times exhibit. We did have 4 exhibits in our front door gallery over the past year: the Life and Times of the Garden City Buffaloes, Coming Home, which focused on the return and burial of the remains of World War II Sergeant Gregory Knoll after nearly 80 years, a Garden City resident. The 50th anniversary of the local celebration of Oktoberfest, and the Our Lady of Guadalupe exhibit at Christmas, which covers a well-known cultural and faith observance that's widespread across Mexico, is taking place more and more in the United States, and has been taking place for decades right here in Finney County. In artifact preservation and facilities, we're getting tight for space. We have expanded our collection of artifacts, photographs, and records to, I love numbers, 25,362 items. We completed the multi-year transfer of paper artifact records going back to 1964 to a digital database. That database came into effect in 1998. We've been catching up since that time. We are now caught up. With the help of this commission and a lot of gift dollars, we did put a new roof this past year on most of the museum. And that has had a very positive effect on the true crime exhibit, on our workspaces, and on the preservation of artifacts that are in storage. In education and research, we served over 5,000 children in the public schools, Garden City, Holcomb, and we do some outside of Finney County. We ask them to pay for the fuel if we're going there. We provided tours or presentations also on Garden City's downtown and other cemetery tours. for college students all the way from Garden City Community College to Kansas State University, for a lot of fraternal and public service organizations, and a lot of class reunion groups. And our research library was able to provide assistance in response to more than 1,700 inquiries. And those came from individuals and families, businesses, government agencies, county departments, city departments, authors, journalists, schools, universities, producers, and the just plain curious as well. So that's a kind of a quick rundown of what we've been doing over the past year. Our mission, our official statement of purpose, is preservation of the past to enlighten the future. And we like to think we're also enlightening the present. Our job is maintaining Finney County's heritage through irreplaceable artifacts and photographs and records, and providing programming, exhibits, events, and activities for the people of Finney County, and also for people who come to visit Finney County. So that's kind of a quick rundown, and I guess I'm open to any questions. Oh, except I do have, for moral support, 4 of our board members here, and I would ask them each just to, I think everybody knows everybody, but just in case, so.
Steve, why don't you just go ahead and introduce them, please?
Okay, Ray Heineman, Terry Stoppel, Keith Downer, and I think everybody knows John Wheeler as well. And John is currently serving as president of our board.
Any questions?
One quick one, Steve. When you do your historical tours and your seminars down there at the museum, do you ask for free will donations?
We do on the 14 presentations that we do throughout the year. We just put a glass bowl out there by the refreshment table, and
Don't ask, you don't receive, right?
that is true. One of the things that amazes me, we do a lot of things to raise funds. We also have a donation box by the front door in the exhibit area. You know, people shove about $1,000 a year through that little slot, and in the big scheme of things, that's not a lot, but it just amazes me that people do that. Twice in 12 years, I've seen a $100 bill in there, so.
Well, Steve, thank you for your presentation, and the board notes that you've made a request for $222,000 for 2026, and as in the past, generally the board takes this matter under advisement. Is there a motion?
I move.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to take the budget outside agency request, the Finney County Museum, in the amount of $222,000 under advisement. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you all very much.
You'll find broad support for the museum here.
Well, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Next up on our agenda is the Finney County Conservation District. Please announce for the viewing public.
Good morning. My name is Carmen Rhodes, and I am the district manager of the Finney County Conservation District. Also with me, I have our board chairman, Abe Lawler, seated right here. I was also going to have Casey Robinson with me. She was our federal partner. She took the early resignation, and so now we have Dennis Weberg, who is our acting supervisory conservationist. I'd like to start, since we have many, I say many, 3 new commissioners, welcome, with a little background on who we are and what we do. We were established, so the Conservation District was established in 1946 after the Dirty 30s, which we all know the devastating effect that had on agriculture. So since 1946, we have been in place. Every county in Kansas has a conservation district. I like to say we are the local voice to address resource concerns. We're talking natural resource concerns. Water, soil are our primary focuses. Water is extremely tight. I don't think that's anything new for any of you. But we don't want someone from eastern Kansas to speak as to what our concerns are here locally. It varies from county to county. Finney County compared to Kearney County is very different. So that's what we're here for, is to provide that financial, technical, and educational assistance. At this point, just kind of give you a rundown of what's happened in really the last 4 or 5 months. We have seen a huge reduction in federal staff, a tightening of our federal funds that is affecting us locally. Our staff on the federal side has gone from 2 in our management unit, that includes Finney, Kearney, and Scott County, to 1 now covering 6 counties. I'm sorry, 2 covering 6 counties now. With that being said, the local office, meaning the conservation districts, are now the face that the producers are coming in and working with for whether it be federal, state, or county projects. And that's our local producers. So we have walk-in traffic that are coming in to sign documents for thousands of dollars worth of projects, and we're the only person that can help them get those contracts finalized and get those payments made. That is the biggest hit that I've ever experienced in my time here. We thought we were dealing with a tight staff when we had Casey on board, and she was the only one. Also, to put into perspective for you, Finney, Scott, and Lane counties hold 70% of the nation's CSP programs or applications. Our CSP program is a program that addresses nutrient and pest management, giving producers an opportunity to see where their soil health is and reduce the amount of chemicals being applied to help that soil health. That workload is now basically on one individual, with all of our conservation district managers being the face for the producers to come in and visit with their concerns. This year, we're just looking for a continuance of the $40,000 that we've had in the past. I believe that's what we had last year, maybe it was 35. We're looking to hopefully try and hire on a second part-time person, but when we're looking at 40,000, I need to rewind here. It's Monday morning and my brain's warming up. I'm sorry about that. We did see a change on the state side. We were receiving a 1-to-1 match with a maximum of 25,000. We had not too long ago received word that the bill did pass, where it is a 2-to-1 match up to $50,000 matched by the state. So if I get 35,000 from you, I can get 50 from the state. If I receive nothing from the county, I get nothing from the state. That money goes to salary, wages, administrative expenses, that kind of thing. We do sell grass seed, weed barrier, that kind of thing on the side that we use to help fund our educational programs. Recently, actually just a week ago, we had our Ark River Water Festival. That is an annual event we have for our local 5th and 6th grade students. And we bring in counties from each side of our county, Kearney County and Gray County. This year, we saw 575 5th and 6th grade students in one day. To say I was tired after that was an understatement. But it's we do a lot of, I want to say mic drop moments where the kids realize how much conservation is important and how much our water availability is reducing. Going through my mind this morning, I had so many things I wanted to say, and I don't think I've touched on every single one of them. But at this point, Abe, if you've got anything to say, I'll let you. Otherwise, I'll entertain any questions you have.
Do we know whether Senate Bill 36 was signed, enrolled into law?
I believe it was.
Yeah, Kara's really good with the computer and loves the Kansas legislature website.
Well, I do know
It
that
would be really important for us
we,
consideration if it's going to be a 2-for-$1 for the state.
I will say we have received notice from the state that for the first time in several years, did we get our full match, meaning we are getting the 50,000 this year.
If we can get the money from us.
Yeah.
I just note in the end of your presentation, for every dollar invested by the county, there's $133 economic return. I just
Yeah.
want to point that out for my fellow commissioners, and thank you for your presentation. Questions, commissioners?
It was approved by the governor on March 26th of '25.
Wonderful. Okay, so, and last year's request was, or allocation was 36,000, I couldn't really tell.
35, I think, 35.
35, thank you.
I move we take the budget under advisement.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded to take the request of 35,000 under advisement, and hearing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next up this morning at 9:15, we have Casa of the Plains, Spirit of the Plains.
Good morning.
Did everyone get a annual report in your packet? Awesome. Well, in 2024, CASA served 127 children. 115 of those children were Finney County children. We continue to, the lion's share of the children we serve is actually in Finney County. We served those with 20 advocates. We were not able to recruit very many advocates last year. We're seeing a national trend downward with volunteers, with all CASA advocates because of the subject matter a lot of times, or the time commitment. I mean, if you're going to be a volunteer, volunteering as a CASA advocate probably is the most time-consuming that you could ever imagine to volunteer for. But we have a class that just graduated for 3, so we're hoping that that's a trend upward for 2025. As you can see, they drove a lot of miles to see their children. Those are unreimbursed miles. The volunteer donates their time and their gasoline in their car to see the child that's been assigned to them. They also logged over 1,000 hours, 1,584 hours. And that was time that was spent with the child and also with the stakeholders. So let's say that a child has some issues in school. That's the time that the advocate will go and visit with the teacher or the counselor or the therapist. So they actually account for all their time that they actually spend working the case. They had almost 3,000 contacts, and that means that's a phone call, a text message. Most of the teenagers that we serve prefer to text. They don't really want to have a phone call or visit, or they like FaceTime as well. We did only 139 court hearings, which is low for us. Last year also, the length of a case became a lot longer. An average case had 31.2 months. So from the time the child is actually had the temporary custody hearing to the time the case is closed, and that could be adoption or reintegration, it was 31 months, over 31 months for a child. And for a child, especially a young child, that's a long time to be involved in the court system. Last year, we had a couple of really fun things. One, we received the Nonprofit of the Year, which was an honor to receive that award on behalf of CASA. CASA has been here since 1989, and we're still the best-kept secret in a lot of ways. People say, oh, what is that? Is that housing? Or people call our office looking for housing. And we also did our first signature event, which was CASA Cravings. And that was an event I thought of to how could we actually do a fundraiser, raise awareness, and with 3 people in an office. And last year we met our goals. This year we met our goals. And the nice thing about CASA Cravings, if you haven't heard about it, is that the community can buy an actual lunch for a first responder. We fed over 100 first responders in this last CASA Cravings. So it's kind of twofold. It's showing a thank you and an act of gratitude to the first responders, but also raising funds for CASA. We raised over $12,000 this year in that little fundraiser. You know, probably the most tragic news that we heard was the Department of Justice cut our funding nationally. So what does that mean to us in Finney County? At this point, nothing. We don't get $1 from the actual, national office. I'll be the first to say that I think they need to cut their office space, they need to reduce their staffing. So I'm hoping that in their appeal that they will make that plea that they will reduce staffing, and they have 3 national offices. I don't think we need 3 national offices. But if the feds do not, agree with their appeal, CASA will go away nationally. So that what that would mean is that we would, I've already talked to the Department of, the Office of Judicial Administration. The nice thing about Kansas is we have a certification process that's side by side. So we are certified by the national office. But to be honest with you, the Kansas certification is a lot more stringent. And if CASA would go away nationally, we would have a different logo, we would have a different name, but we'd still be doing the same things for kids in our community. That's the nice thing about Kansas. And since we're really not affected federally by funds, and we hope that we can hold on to some other funds like the VOCA funds, we're hoping that it'll be, seamless. What I really hope is that they actually do an appeal and we keep our logo and keep our identity with the national office because, since 1989, we still haven't got people who know who we are. Can you imagine starting over the new logo and a new look? Funding, we had a great year last year. We had such generous donors. We raised over $50,000. The lion's share of that came in through Match Day. For the last couple of years, we've been so blessed that we've been able to carry over funds to our balance sheet. When I first started with CASA, our balance sheet was $50,000. It's now over $400,000. So if we did have a catastrophic issue with funding, I think we'd be okay for a couple of years. A lot of funders don't like to have a hefty bottom line like that. But as you can tell, even in our own community, people are really struggling who've lost federal funding. So I feel really blessed that we've been able to write grants and cultivate donorship to extend our future. And that's all for my presentation, but
Thank you. Any questions from the commission?
Quick question, Debbie, how do you invest your idle funds?
CDs.
Okay, do you ever talk to this treasurer and work with her some? She has better insight on funding or putting it out.
Yeah, I could. I mean, I think since 2018, we went to 50 to 400,000. We've just had a windfall, and it's mostly been through donations. So you never can predict what the donations, so I don't even budget donations really because you can't really predict those. But I would take that under advisement. And, yeah,
I'd ask her for direction sometimes.
yeah, that'd be great.
Any other questions? As you know, Debbie, I really want you to know, I think you do important work and we'll find support for your continued support for your agency as an outside agency of the county.
Okay.
Motion to take the matter under advisement.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded to take the Casa Spirit of the Plains $15,000 request for the 2025 budget under consideration at a future time. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Can I have 2 minutes with a great story?
Two,
We have a CASA advocate, a CASA child, who came and was our keynote speaker last year at our luncheon. And she expressed how difference the CASA made in her life. And she went to school because you're a foster child, you can go to school. She is now in a doctorate program, and she is coming back to Garden City to be a doctor here. So I just love those success stories because we did the right thing, you know. And she contributes her success on having a CASA advocate.
thanks for taking the time to explain to us that it's a great investment.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll next hear from Compass Area Mental Health.
With Commissioner Schultz on the board, he won't call us.
Thank
area
you.
mental health center
I know.
It's Compass. I said
I
Compass.
know, it's so many less words to just say Compass. To say 2024 was a dynamic year for us might be an understatement, but we'll see. It was definitely a year with a ton of growth. We did get officially certified as a certified community behavioral health clinic, which changed our payment model some, which allowed us to do things that really we've never been able to do in our community. And we're really excited to see how that can grow. Hopefully, we do not get hit with anything at the federal level that trickles down to the state, but I am fearful that might lead to some sleepless nights coming up. So we, probably 2 years ago when I was here, because we had a little growth the year before, we had always hovered around 200 employees. Right now, we have 320 employees at Compass. That's in our 13 counties. Our budget is now $28.5 million. We had a 15% growth in services provided. We're really trying to focus on community outreach because we know we're extremely helpful to anyone who comes in our doors for services. But all the people left out there that don't come in, we want to introduce ourselves. We want people to know we're there from them in any way that might be. Also, 988, that has really kicked off nationwide. We have about 200 vehicles with Compass, and they all have 988 stickers in the back window, so they're circulating throughout all of our 13 counties to help bring awareness to that. This booklet is going to have some things you can look at a time that works for you, but the next page talks about what is a certified community behavioral health clinic. So these are the 9 services that we are required to provide, and we are providing all of them. We have a choice. We can come into a partnership with someone else if we want to, but in our minds, that brings some risk because we all have to operate under the same policies and procedures, and it's very hard to control outside of our 4 walls. We've also included in here some information on our budget, how we spend the dollars that we make. 82% of our budget comes from services. So if we are not hiring people, training people well, and providing great services, we're never going to bring in the income that we need to survive. We use our county dollars for sliding scale. And our charity write-off last year was $1.6 million. And again, that's where all of our county dollars go, which really only covers about 1/3 of that. I've included some information on demographics. When you get to this, you will see Finney County is one of the easiest counties to talk to, I guess, in terms of everything happens in Finney County that Compass does. So we don't have to scale down to your really small community, but this graph shows proportion off. So you can see that nearly half the services we provide are here in Garden. I believe our employee base here is 180 staff out of the 330 are just here. One of the things we're always super excited about is our mobile crisis and the services that we provide, trying to cut down on law enforcement time being used. Last year, we had a 90% diversion rate from hospitalization, which is really important. Again, not having law enforcement on the road, having to get people somewhere. And actually, our data showed that law enforcement was only involved in 12% of the 1,865 crisis services last year. So our ultimate goal, of course, is to take care of people. So that's why we're available 24/7, 365. One of the things that really helps us is having an adult and a children's crisis house. So we have an adult house in Dodge and a children's house here in Garden City. We can place people there instead of hospitalization. While there, 7 days a week, they get therapy. They can have their medications adjusted. It's almost like a mini psychiatric unit. So that has definitely helped us a lot. Not every center in the state has either crisis house, and we've been able to develop both. I will say, though, without the help of KDADS, that really wouldn't be possible, because they do pretty much fund the two houses, because there's absolutely no revenue that's going to be generated that would sustain it in any possible way. Have some great stories in here. So I won't really run through them, but I would love it if you could take the time. One of our required services is serving veterans, and so we have a wonderful veteran story in here, along with some others, and then a list of our board members. So I don't know how, but it seems like I always end up on call the weekend before I come here. And so, about 6 o'clock in the morning, I'm hoping I don't get called out and don't make it here, or don't look presentable by the time I make it here. But this last weekend, I had no crisis calls, which sounds great if you're the person on call, but it always makes me a little bit nervous, like where was everybody that might have needed something, but that's okay. So I'm gonna revert back to a story then, because I do think stories tell what we do. A month ago when I was on call, about 9 o'clock at night, got a call from law enforcement, and they were at someone's house. This child is an adopted child with some severe developmental disabilities. He was playing a game with the family and ended up throwing 2 chairs and assaulting a family member. So they did call the police. When I arrived at the home, which was only 5 minutes from my house, so that made it really quick, we have an under 30-minute response for mobile recrisis, which is also probably a record breaker in the state. So I get there, and one of our staff walks out the front door. I didn't even know she was already there. Parent support had been called by the family before the police arrived. We had already decided we were going to take him to our children's crisis house, so I made sure everything was calm before I was willing to transport him. Told law enforcement, you guys can leave. I don't know how long they were there. So I visited with the family, got the kid in my car, walked out, and the police car was still there. And I thought, well, I told them they could leave, trying to get them back. I appreciate they stayed, because they weren't sure if the kid could go off again. So they did stick around. But that's how our mobile crisis works. Again, we'd like to have law enforcement not be the first call, but this became pretty aggressive in the home. So we really needed their assistance. Now, Fernando is going to talk about Finney County specifically.
It's going to be hard when she already kind of
No,
said
I
a lot.
left out the good stuff.
So, but I mean, a
Hold
couple
on,
things.
Fernando, please introduce yourself to
Okay,
the
well,
viewing
yes.
public.
Oh, well, good morning. My name is Fernando Rodriguez. I'm the director of the Garden City office, and I've been there now two and a half years. So, like I said, when Lisa kind of, shared a lot, but I mean, yeah, she's right. Most of the things that we do is usually Finney County. But a couple things that we have going on is the GDC, the Juvenile Detention Center, partnership. So they bring, when a youth comes to the JDC, we are gonna see them within 24, no later than 48 hours. They have a mental health assessment, you know, if they are high risk and everything, so we provide therapy. We provide groups for them throughout the week. So we have, you know, the partnership working. We have also with the jail, we have our liaison. So it's a 100% pay for us, from us, right? So we have this person, you know, working at the jail. They, you know, go there and see who's struggling with mental health, you know, problems. So they will, you know, pass the information to us, and then we can schedule either therapy appointments or medication appointments, so we can help them while they're in jail and, you know, they're struggling with. I mean, one of the programs that we started, also the corresponder program, you know, with the Garden City Police Department. We have our staff going there, working with them, responding to calls that, you know, involve a mental health, you know, part. They go and assist, de-escalating, or sometimes explaining our services and helping them, you know, come through our doors. And sometimes that crisis, you know, becomes, you know, the way for them to get services. Another thing that we're doing is growing our own, you know. In the past, we struggled with having therapists, you know, bringing professionals to Garden City or any town is hard. So therapist was a big, you know, challenge. So now we encourage our employees, you know, they're already working with us, encourage them, you know, to help them, you know, or encourage them to pursue their master's degree in counseling, psychology, right? And while we help them with, you know, pay internships, so that way they don't have to stress out with, you know, having a full-time and then doing an internship, and that has really, you know, grown so far, I mean, a lot. Last year we have one provider, then 2 therapists, and now we have 6 that are gonna be, you know, starting their program in counseling, so which means a year from now, we're gonna have 6 new therapists in the Garden City office, which is great. And I mean, 2 years ago, we only had like 6 providers. Now we have like 13, I think, so it's pretty good.
Board questions for Fernando or for Ms. Souther? Well, I just want you to explain just a little bit more for the viewing public, Lisa, if you would, your scholarship program for training Grow Your Own.
So with, we can provide up to $5,250 per calendar year to someone who can apply toward their education, and it's tax-free. So they do their semester of school, they turn in their grades and proof of passing their courses, and then we're able to reimburse them. And, you know, Fernando did the math, and he just brought up that we're doing these paid internships. So throughout our entire system, when we look at the number of people that we're scholarshiping and we're paying their full salary, even though they're only technically working 3 days a week, it was almost $500,000 over a year, which sounds like a lot to invest, but when you look at over time, if these therapists are from here and they're gonna stay here, the payoff is gonna be there. But yeah, we hadn't really put a lot of dollars to how much lost revenue was gonna come from the paid internship, but it'll definitely be worth it. So, and I feel like I have to for Commissioner Basque, because he's probably like, Lisa, why didn't you guys do anything at the jail when I was there? Or for you, why'd you do co-responder with us? Times change, and dollars and funding change. And yeah, we're gonna see some big differences at the jail. I really do think so. I think it's gonna take some pressure off the staff. I think we're gonna engage people with us, and we're gonna have them follow up with us, and maybe they won't be arrested, which is good for both PD and Sheriff's Department if they live in county limits, I guess.
We have our ACT program too.
Yeah, and then we have a more intense program that is for people who are likely to end up in a hospital or in jail, that just started here in Garden City. Also, because I do want to draw attention to this, again, last year was a year of great growth. Included in our rate that we were paid was the purchase of additional buildings for Compass, and we did not see that happen in 2024. So all that money sat, but it's now being spent in 2025 because we bought one building in Dodge City, we bought the old Red Line Motors here, and we just purchased Res Care, which is next to our other Compass buildings. So, yeah, we do have, all that money is now reinvested back in our services and in our community.
Thank you. Any other questions?
No, I'd just like to say it's a much-needed service, and I'm thankful to people like you who obviously have a passion for it.
Thank you.
Motion to take the request of 150,000 under advisement.
So moved.
Second. Either one.
All right, for the record, Kevin has the second. Is there further discussion? Not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Lisa and Fernando. We have an opportunity to take a break before our next presentation at 9:45. We'll reconvene at 9:45, so we'll be in recess till then.
back to order. Next on our agenda today is to hear from the Finney County Committee on the Aging. Please announce for the viewing public.
Yes, good morning, everybody. My name is Hillary Whiteley. I'm the Assistant Director of the Finney County Committee on Aging. Just to tell you a little bit about us, in case you don't know, some of the services that we provide. Meals on Wheels is one of our largest ones. That is one of the entities that are within the Committee on Aging, located at the Senior Center. In case you don't know, Meals on Wheels is created to deliver meals and a kind of wellness check to homebound residents of Finney County. Many people don't know that they do require a doctor's order. And we have 8 routes that are delivered every day. 7 of them are within Garden City limits, and then 1 of them is outside of city limits, but within Finney County. And in 2024, we delivered 25,056 meals. Of those, 9,725 of them were to low-income clients. And we have a couple of options available. We have, based on their income, we have a sliding scale that they can get reduced cost meals. And for some of them, we do offer free meals. So part of your contribution helps pay for some of those meals for people who wouldn't otherwise be able to pay for those. And then we also have what's called friendship meals in our nutrition program, where it's the same meal, but it's offered at the senior center. So if people are not homebound, they're just seniors and they want that meal still, we offer it Monday through Friday, right at noon. And in 2024, we served 15,295 meals to people who came to the senior center to eat. And we have a couple of options too. Ever since COVID, if people wanted to come in and get a meal but didn't want to stay and be around all the people, we have offered that as an option where they can pick up a meal but then take it to go. And all of the meals are prepared by St. Catherine Hospital, so they're signed off by a nutrition advisor or a dietary person to make sure that they're within the guidelines for the day. Some of the activities that we offer, Medicare counseling is a big one. We get calls every day for people who are either starting Medicare or needing to change something. And it's such a confusing process that it's nice that we have several people that are able to help kind of guide them through that process. Another big one that we offer exercise classes at various times throughout the day. Those are probably some of our biggest activities. It's also a great way for us to reach the younger seniors in our area that they're wanting to stay active. We have a class called cardio drumming, where it's one of the giant exercise balls, but it's on a little stand and they drum to music, and it's become incredibly popular, and it's fun. They're starting to get their friends involved, but it's a good way for them to stay active. Legal aid, we have a representative from Kansas Legal Aid who comes in once a month and offers free services to seniors. With a lot of them are doing their wills, power of attorney, things like that. But again, the free aspect of it is huge, and they're able to come in, get the help that they need, but also see the senior center and the things that we offer there. And then every other month we distribute commodities, and that's to low-income clients, not just seniors, but all community members in Garden City can apply for a commodities box, which it varies every month on what food we get in, but it's a huge help to those to help kind of supplement what they may not otherwise be able to afford. And then within the senior center, we house an organization called RSVP, and it stands for Retired Senior Volunteer Program. They are fantastic. They have volunteers who come in, and every year they do Medicare counseling as well, which they see hundreds of clients for that every year. And then one of their biggest ones that they just wrapped up are offering free tax services to, it's all ages, all income levels, but that brings in a lot of people, and is a great service for people who need their taxes done. And then within the Finney County Committee on Aging is also Finney County Transit. And the county portion of that is the minibus. So those are the blue buses that drive around, and those buses are the origin to destination. So basically people who need to go specifically to a doctor's appointment or to, I mean, really it can be anywhere, but it isn't just CityLink that's on a fixed route. It's where we will pick you up at your house and take you to the destination that they need. And in 2024, they gave almost 13,000 rides to people on the minibus who they do have to fill out an application and either be basically, again, doctor recommended that they are either disabled, elderly, need help getting around. And then in 2024, of those 13,000, about 5,000 were handicapped or in a wheelchair. One of the biggest things in the budget request is that we are needing a new minibus. Since 2020, they, of course, with everything else, paused distributing new buses. And so our buses have gone over the mileage requirements that KDOT recommends. And unfortunately as well, the cost has almost doubled since 2020 on a bus. And so that's a huge expense. KDOT does reimburse 80% of the bus, but it is still we still have to pay it up front, and then when we do a request, they will reimburse for that. And then another big thing going on at the senior center is our building. It's an old grocery store, and it pretty much hasn't been updated since we opened up in the 70s. And we've had some architects come in, and not a lot is up to code. And so we're hoping to make it a little bit more handicap accessible, easier for the seniors to get around, make some changes as exercise classes and the things that are becoming more popular, make more room for them. And so we have had an architect come in and distribute plans for what they could see those changes looking like. And we've started kind of some simple fundraising, but ways to raise funds since about 2022 to help pay for that. And then recently we've had 2 new HVAC units put in that we found out haven't worked in years. I've been there almost 10 years and found out they had never worked. So getting some of those things updated and going is important, again, as we look to renovating the building and really making it more inviting also for the younger seniors to come in and stay active and have a place to go as they kind of enter into retirement age and things like that. So we have requested an increase for 2026. Like I said, a big portion of that is needing a new minibus, and then again some changes to the building that really need done. So thank you.
Thank you. Questions from the commission? My comment is that I noticed in your handout that you're having the health department come over and do some work with our seniors on the 2nd and 4th Wednesday of the month.
Yes.
I'd like to take this opportunity to make sure any of the seniors that are watching this take advantage of that opportunity.
Yes.
As I understand, that's a work from our health department to reach out into the community to those that have served us well as seniors.
Yes, and we also have a nurse that comes in from St. Catherine every Friday
that will do similar things, but it's been great to have the health department come in and offer different resources. And I think Patty put in there that they've even taken part in some of the activities that we've offered. So it's been a good way, I think, for seniors to see them regularly and kind of form more of a connection, feel more comfortable about asking some of those health questions where maybe they wouldn't if they weren't as familiar with them. So that's been a fantastic resource, and we appreciate them coming.
Anything else, sir?
Hillary, on your bus purchase, you said 80% is reimbursed by KDOT.
Correct.
So but the county has to raise the initial cost for the whole purchase of the bus?
We have to pay it, and then we put in a request to
Get
KDOT
the
to get,
80%.
correct, yes.
I don't know why they just don't put in 20% from the get-go and start.
They are pretty good. I mean, we just got done with a City Link bus, and the paperwork is amazing. How much paperwork we have to submit before to make sure everything is just in line. But they have usually, I mean, been pretty quick about it. I just kind of take it as we're doing our part to show that we've done everything.
Some question about tax exempt and
Yes.
those.
We are not currently sales tax exempt, so that's a big portion of a bus. And then working with Trista here, we've been kind of trying to figure out, we had always gotten county tags, but she found a statute, and I would have to get more details about it. I've talked to her a little bit about it, but currently we're having to pay for, I don't know if you call it regular tags, and then go to the Board of Tax Appeals to get, I believe, the property tax reimbursed on that. So we're also looking into working with KDOT to see how other buses in other communities, because a lot of places have either city or county tags, and so just trying to figure out what we need to do. But we appreciate Trista. She's done a lot of work looking into that for us as well. So, but yes, I know a lot of other KDOT entities are also looking into trying to be listed as sales tax exempt, because I want to say on the last bus that we did, it was upwards of $15,000, $20,000 just of tax, the bus for the city.
Well, it would appear to be very kind of obvious that we're sales tax exempt, but common sense and obvious is two different
Right.
things you're talking to.
And the senior centers also are not sales tax exempt. So we get a lot of if they've done work for us, they'll put no tax, and so I have to call them and I assumed you were sales tax exempt. Nope. So.
All right, any other questions? Motion? So moved. Take the matter under advisement. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded to take the request of $438,218 from the Finney County Committee on Aging under advisement. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll next hear from
Raise
the showcases.
for the stupid bus, and then
Good morning, sir, and please announce for the viewing public.
Thank you. My friend Bob Cratch and I are here today to share a little bit with you about our Western Kansas Career Showcases. The first thing we could probably show is statistics, but it's much deeper than that. This year we had 8 showcases. We hit over almost 1,500 kids. Over 30 school districts were represented. We have over 40 businesses and counties, six colleges. We're hearing from colleges all over Kansas now, because this is the only thing going. We had K-State of Salina now is become a member of us because they're wanting to get the rural Kansas kids out here to get back east and that. It's just been amazing. You know, what we see is in the business side of it, we're seeing more and more businesses truly understanding our purpose and our why, and they know, number one, is we got to keep customers in the area. Number two, we working for staff, employees, and workers. But, you know, our number one goal, and we never want to get away from this, is our number one goal is to help a young person find a career. And we tell them that right off the start. A job means I have to go to work. A career means I get to go to work. And if we help them find a career, they're going to be in that career a very, very long time. And our second is we hope it's right here. But if not, it's a career. And so that's the important piece of that. And you know, I told our people right after the city-county essential showcase here in Garden City, I wrote them an email, our team, and I said, you know, today is we really, really understood our why, our purpose of doing this. And I said, first of all, it was the buy-in from the students. Our students walk in, and I know you've been there, our students walk in. If you look at our facility, say it's the fairgrounds, and we have tables all over the area. We put them in small groups. At first, if we have 8 different groups of students of 200 kids, you're talking about, you know, 25 kids in a group. They come in, they sit on the front row. Why do they sit on the front row? Because we ask them. They take notes. You can see every one of them has a notepad. We give it to them ahead of time because we talk about first impressions. First impressions is established in the first 3 to 30 seconds. They meet someone. We give them a handout of all the speakers and all the people, and we ask them to make contacts and go from there. They, on their own, when they got up after the morning session, because they moved 8 different times, if that's the number of groups we do, they stand up and they thank those speakers. That's their idea. So number one is it's more than just learning about a career. It's learning about professionalism and working with there. I said, but you know what was really special about this one in your county career showcase is because your people, your teammates were presenting to them. And I'm sitting in listening to their people, and one of your persons come in, he was talking about, he might have been on the Road and Bridge group, I don't remember exactly, but he comes in, he's telling these young people, he said, you know, I used to work construction, and he said, I never had a day off. I worked Sundays, I worked weekends. He said, I came to work for this organization, and they care about me. That was the thing that he shared. They care about me. Now, I tell you, if I'm a young person and I want to do something for someone, I want to work for somebody that cares about me. So it's not just these students getting something out of it. They get to hear people in the trenches, and they go from there. So some of our future plans is we're going to move to Northwest Kansas. We're going to put 3 showcases up there. They have a grant that's all there. It'll be entirely taken care of in that area. None of our money or any of that in this area will be involved up there. It's a growth process. It's a testing process because United School Administrators of Kansas, they're one of our partners. They're the umbrella over superintendents, principals. They see this as a rural problem in Kansas, not a Western Kansas problem. And so we want to experiment. We want to grow with that. Holcomb was our leader of sending students this year. We had 8 showcases. They sent kids to 6 of them. I'm going to guess, I'm going over there in a little bit of what they do. See, every school in Kansas is suggested to have an individual plan of study for every high school student. That individual plan of study is you pick a career path, and then we're supposed to expose you to that career path. Then later on, we might get you on a job study or apprenticeship, all of that. They're totally bought in. And most districts are working that way. But they've sent, I'm going to say, maybe 90% of their kids this year to that, to at least one showcase. And they've got great feedback from their students on that. I'm looking to see what else that we might have. Bob, can you think of something I've left out on what we need to share?
My name is Bob Kreitzer. I work with Joe. I'm on the board. And first of all, I want to thank you for the foresight you had to initially fund the efforts that we had. Without you, it would have not been working. And Joe and his enthusiasm and his passion for this has worked very, very well. I think this last year we learned a tremendous amount. Number one, we keep talking about growing our student population and having more and more students there, but we learned we can only handle so many effectively. So now our goal is at 150 to 170 students. We're also going to look the same way. We have 40 businesses that are involved, but we learned that at each showcase, somewhere 14 to 16 is about where we need to be. Having our 3 community colleges and Newman University, Fort Hays University, and K-State now gives the students a tremendous time as they move in between and they have lunches and stuff like that. They can break away and go to those educational outlets and find out, where can I go to do this to forward the career that Joe has introduced us to. It's coming together. Our biggest challenge are the school districts, the counselors, the people like this, that getting the students out of the classroom and into the showcase. This individual plan of study that Joe talks about is the leverage that we hope to do. And anytime you, with your power positions, can speak with the educational institutions that are here, we get great participation out of Holcomb. We get very, very poor participation out of Garden City High School. So any leverage that you can exert would really help. We have always had the two, the healthcare and the essential occupations, here in Garden City. This next year, we're actually adding another one, construction trades, which I spoke briefly about before, which will be highlighted, your new building that's going on, the EMS and Health Center. It'll be kind of the core, and we'll also have 3 or 4 other construction projects that students can go visit. And we'll rotate them on about a 45-minute deal, sending students around to these various projects. They'll get to see firsthand, specifically, what's all involved in the construction trades. And I know certain people on your board know how critical it is that we continue to do this, as well as Garden City Community College, who has a tremendous carpentry program. So what you've started is really starting to pay off, and we're seeing it over and over again. And we've just got to figure out one more way to get students out of the classroom for that one day. And I think in the Holcomb case, having students attend 6 different showcases, and yet it wasn't the same students going to all 6. That's what makes it really work. They have picked which ones they want. So thank you once again, and I think we'll stand for any questions you might have.
Commissioners?
Quick question, Bob. I know you guys survey your businesses down the road. Do you have any stats on how many of them have hired students that have came back or out of education now, or in the workforce that they've hired that were first?
In terms of quantifying that, a lot of them are still in the educational process. Empirical, I know, they actually brought a student that went to one of the showcases, started into the community college program out here. Empirical is paying for their education. The students working half-time. They actually had him at a showcase explaining that. I know Tetro has a young lady from Sublette that came and went to a showcase and is now employed full-time there. A lot of the other people, Mineola Hospital, what's the answer?
Mineola Hospital has 6 people, 6 students in waiting. Once they finish their career, they're going to come back to Mineola. One of them is going to be a doctor, and there's a variety of there. They also have a young person that, as a sophomore in high school, came to a career showcase and changed his career path to go into the John Deere mechanic program. So they changed his alignment in high school classes to fit that program. We're in the very beginning of getting feedback from, how successful we are in retaining. And the interesting part of that is how many down the road, how many that will make that relationship, a student with that business, 10 years later, they may come back and say, oh yeah, I remember that company here in Garden City that I met with, and I may make a connection. There's no way to really measure that, but, you know, we've had individual cases and hearsay and not statistically. We're working on that. We have surveys after every showcase of the attendance. We're getting our counselors to get back with us on what kids are picking down the road. So we're working on the statistics side, those two are.
You know, we've always, in the business world, we always had the philosophy that we needed to train our people, and people said, well, what if you do that and you train them up and then they leave? Well, the other side of it is, what if we don't train them and they stay? The same thing can work here. How do we quantify it today, tomorrow, the next day, that this is working? But if we don't do it, I'll guarantee you it's not going to work. So
I want to share one thing on that, and I had it in my notes. I've been in education my whole life. I got to work with that young lady when she was in high school, okay? There's sometimes you just know something's working, and statistics doesn't, you don't have statistics to it. You just kind of know when you reach a kid. And it's just so powerful to see those kids come, and we're paying attention to them, and they feel important. They feel like part of it. You just know. Without statistics, I know that's hard for some people, but if you've been in education long enough, you know when you've hit somebody. And I feel like we're really doing that. We, as the whole group, it takes all of us.
One more quick question.
Yes,
Does
sir.
the military branches, they send representatives?
We have the Army as a member, Army National Guard as a member. They've come to almost every showcase, and we're working on that process.
Good. Well, I went to a graduation, high school graduation. There's 130 some, and they named off all the kids that are getting ready to go to the military before they announced the class. Had them all stand up. 10% of them are going to the military.
Yeah.
very good.
I want to echo what Bob said in thanking you guys, because this, I know you've been there, you're doing it, and some other people are hearing about it. We had our first showcase in Liberal this year. Numbers weren't good because we had to do it towards the end of the year. We had to move the date, and school was busy, but their county people were part of what we did, and they know what you're doing, and we've got other counties that are hearing from what you do. And I got a call last week from a guy originally from Scott City. He's down in Dallas, Texas. Says, is there a way we can get on? And we're hearing what you're doing back there in the Garden City area of getting people. And I said, well, our deal is we want to get them, but we want to keep them here. We don't want to send them to Dallas. And he goes, I completely understand that, but word is getting out. I'm just thinking at a county commissioners conference, you're going to be the elite talking about what are we doing to keep our kids in our county. I don't know of anyone else doing this.
Motion to take their request under advisement.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded to take the request of $50,000 for Western Kansas Career Showcases under advisement. No further discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Motion
Thank you.
carries. All right. Next up, we have Finney County Economic Development Corp. Please make sure you announce, please.
Good morning, Lana Duvall, Finney County Economic Development President and CEO. Is that good enough? Yeah. All right, awesome. All right, good morning. We have everything in your packet that is requested by the county, so we did complete all of those documents for you. A couple of things I would draw your attention to. We are not asking for any increase from our partners this year, so maintaining the same level of funding that we've had. Probably more important to draw your attention to what we do versus what we ask for in an investment. But I'd like for you to look at the memorandum that we submit with our budget request. So again, we are not requesting any increases from our partners this year. We are fully funded by tax dollars. Garden City is the largest funder, and then of course you, and then that's followed by the City of Holcomb and Garden City Community College. What we do is grow the tax base. So if you look at the second page of that memo, you see where we track the real property valuation versus the oil and gas valuation. some of you, Larry, have been around this commission long enough that you got to watch the oil and gas valuation dive, take a pretty significant nosedive. So that started kind of in earnest in about 2015 and has just continued to be a challenge. That matters to you because as you're budgeting and getting to listen to all of these numbers from all of these important services, the tax base is really what determines what you have to invest in your community. So most of you are familiar with Shannon Dick in our office. A couple of years ago, I asked him to calculate what percentage of our tax growth we could actually attribute to the efforts of economic development. And when I say economic development, I don't mean just our office. As a combined community, what we're investing in economic development, how is that paying off? So he ran some comparisons with the City of Liberal, City of Dodge City, and City of Great Bend, which we felt were pretty decent peer communities to look at. And if you look at that, 61.7% of our growth can be attributed directly to the work that we do around economic development. Taking that a step further, when you look at the growth that we experienced just in the 10-year period from 2013 to 2023, we went from 273 roughly million to over 500 million in that period, which is pretty significant growth for a community this size. And you could attribute about 141 million of that growth directly to the efforts in our offices. So I think that's important to understand. We recognize that we have to continue to justify the monies that get invested in economic development for this community. It's always interesting when we talk to the public, which we do a lot of. We speak at a lot of different civic organizations and obviously to our government partners quite frequently. But we always hear, I really appreciate what you did, bringing in the transload facility, bringing in DFA, bringing in empirical. Everybody seems to understand that's really cool, and that's where the huge growth in the real property tax valuation comes from. But mostly what they care about is where can we shop and where can we eat. So we understand that. We do spend quite a bit of time working on quality of life issues. When I took over in this position, it was a huge concern. When we talked to our partners, specifically for those with advanced degrees, they had a really hard time attracting workforce here because we didn't have those quality of life, however you define that, initiatives underway. So we didn't have the shopping they were looking for. We didn't necessarily have the dining they were looking for. Hence, Shulman Crossing. You see a lot of that growth, and we've spent a lot of time focusing on those. The real benefit of those is that they also increase your sales tax revenues. So when you look at our sales tax charts, you see that we've had significant growth in that arena too. Both of those tax bases are extremely important to you all as you make decisions on what you can invest in next. So a few of the things I want to touch on specifically, because I know they're the big challenges that we all hear about. Housing, we know, we're trying. We're making some progress there. I think over the next few months, you'll hear us talking even more about multifamily development and potentially even some mobile home development. We are just at a place where we can't rely on the traditional single-family ranch-style home to fill the need. It's not going to get there. We are not going to get there going that direction. So we have been fortunate. We've attracted some good multifamily projects. Now it's a matter of getting them underway and actually getting those units into our inventory. So we know it's tough. We completely understand the challenges that people have, more so than you may believe. We field a lot of calls in our office of folks who are in dire need of housing. So absolutely top of mind for us. Childcare is going to be interesting. We'll see what happens when we get the KDHE regulatory guidance. For you that aren't aware, the legislature took a pretty big swing at childcare this year. Some of that absolutely was what we had asked for over the years. Governor Kelly had appointed me to her early childhood transition task force. We did some really good work there. The legislature took that information, which was exciting for us because we did spend a lot of time on it, but they even went further as far as their regulations and licensing goes. KDHE, which is the agency that oversees licensing for childcare, has promised to have their guidance in place by August of this year, which seems a little concerning, just that we're waiting until August, since the legislation has been in place now for some time. We don't know how that's going to impact us. If the law is read the way some are interpreting it, there basically isn't any requirement anymore or licensing oversight anymore. We think that the guidance will come out somewhere in between, but again, we won't know. So the investment that we've made in childcare as a community, I still stand behind and think that we made the right decision. But that board that I serve on as well, we are absolutely keeping an eye on what this will mean and whether it still makes sense to provide the childcare slots that we've created so far. And then the other thing that I think is kind of probably getting a lot of attention right now is our partnership with Kansas State University. We have done some really big work there, and it's not necessarily being felt completely in the community what's happening there, but we have a task force now that's set up with K-State faculty and Garden City Community College faculty, and we're meeting every 2 weeks to move forward with those bachelor's degree programs. A couple of the exciting things that I'll share, and again, if you're not in education, this may not be that impactful to you, but K-State has agreed to accept 75 credit hours from community college level. That is huge. In the past, they would only accept about half of the required courses would be accepted from a community college. What that means for us is that our students who are here, even the students who are here today that may be wanting to transition to a bachelor's program that isn't yet available by K-State, they have the opportunity to stay on at the community college, get some more hours, up to 75 of those will transfer in towards their degree program. So that's huge. We will be offering a diversified ag program through K-State. That's going through the Kansas Board of Regents this month to get the approval on that. But that degree will allow a lot of our folks who did not have an opportunity to pursue a bachelor's degree locally, but perhaps have their associate's degree. This degree will allow them really, without a lot of specialized classes, to come out with kind of a broad agriculture degree. So for the folks that really need that bachelor's degree in order to move up in their positions, this will be an opportunity for them to get that in place without leaving Garden City, which is very exciting. And then the last thing I'll mention on that, K-State is working to adopt Bachelors of Applied Science. So we have Bachelors of Arts, we have Bachelors of Science. Most people are familiar with those. The Bachelor of Applied Science actually requires reduced hours to still receive that full baccalaureate degree. So a lot of exciting stuff there. We feel like this is probably going to be one of the most meaningful and impactful projects that we've ever done in our community. So we look forward to watching that continue to grow and watching our community stay in place to get their educations and really be a part of the future of our region. Happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you. Commissioners?
I'm going to give a quick story because, and not a question, but kudos to Shannon and his work. Because we always host a leadership young stockman class at our house every year. And Shannon came out last year and spoke, and the feedback was amazing. Most of those kids, from all over the state of Kansas, and they're going, wow, we did not realize all this was going on out here. And so those type of things, I think, are really a plus for us.
Yeah.
I will just voice another kudos to economic development and our partnership with the other taxi communities in your organization. We had $1.1 billion of sales in Finney County. We sent the state over $65 million last year in sales tax alone. And when it comes to highway development around Garden City, we seem to not be in the plan or not in the program and not getting the things done that we really need done. And so I'm going to take this opportunity to thank you for all your hard work in doing the infrastructure work that we need, not only for your colleges and four-lane highways, buzzwords for economic development, but also the grind during legislative session to get people in Topeka to understand that it's okay to build roads west to east and from your regional center for business. And I think in the long run, we'll be all a lot better off. And I thank you for keeping your request the flat this year. As you well know, we'll be looking to seek voter approval on a half-cent sales tax. And with that in mind, we'll be looking and reaching out to all of our partners for their support and for their participation in this very important vote coming up in November. Other questions or comments, Commissioners? All right, very good. Motion to take the matter under advisement?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to take Economic Development Corp's request for outside agency budget request of $300,000 under advisement. No further discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Into our schedule, we have a built-in opportunity to take a break. Is the library here already? What I would like to do is go ahead and take you up at 10:40, and we're going to take about a 12-minute break and get a cup of coffee and so forth. So we'll take you up in about 12 minutes. That'll work for you. Thank you. There you go. clerkless. So we'll make sure the minutes reflect that we call back to order at 10:40. And we'll hear next from the Finney County Library.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I am Paula Kimbrell. I am Chair of the Board of the Finney County Public Library. This is Pam, the Director of our library. With us, we have Callie, who's Assistant Director, and Marcia Wright, who is our current Treasurer. I'm going to start and go over kind of the nuts and bolts of the budget request this year, and then I'll pass it over to Pam for all the fun stuff to leave it on a high note for you guys. This year's funding request is quite a bit larger than what we have asked for in the past. And I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about the why behind that. The current budget request is $1,200,000, just over. We tried to hit exactly 1.9 mils in asking for this. We have been looking at a resolution from 1999 that says the library can request up to 1.9 mils, and for 15 plus years, we didn't go all the way back. We stopped at one point. We have asked quite a bit underneath the 1.9 mils. This has hindered our ability to save for capital improvements, all those surprise things that buildings need. So we were hoping that this year we would start catching up to create a capital improvement fund. In years past, we have always kept pretty flat and only requested about a 2.5% increase every year. That 2.5% increase corresponds with library systems and services, who the board has hired to take care of the inner workings of the library. They can handle all of the hiring, HR, management, paying the salaries, computer systems, everything inside the building, including books, board games, anything that is being checked out. Also covers the items that you guys use on the e-reading apps. Hoopla is one of the big ones. And then we also have a magazine where you can read magazines and newspapers. That covers all those subscriptions. And so that is in there, and that increases 2.5% every year. So in trying to hit 1.9 mils to get our, I estimated on what taxes have done in the past and just kind of went over it because I really wanted to hit 1.9. So I understand if you guys are like, that is 1.10, we got to take you back. I understand. We wanted to hit that full 1.9 if possible. This year, that 1.9 to hit that is about $90,000 difference. That $90,000 would go completely into a capital improvement fund that we are getting started. It currently does not have much in it at all. It's been just a little bits that we could scrape by through the years when something didn't break. We could sweep some money in there. We have estimated on the board that we will have roofing projects, electrical projects, and plumbing all within the next 10 years. So we would like to get some money saved so we don't come to you guys later in a panic when something has broken and have to ask for a full amount. So we would like to start being more proactive in our budgeting by saving some of this money. And I think it will help taxpayers going forward because we're not grabbing a whole amount at once. Since we submitted our budget, a couple items have changed. On the income side, we have budgeted about $10,000 from the state This money actually comes through to the state from the federal government through the Department of Library and Museums. Currently, that 10,000 is completely up in the air. We do not know if any of that will be received this year, pending legislation that is going on at the federal level. We also, in the budget, we decreased our revenue that we receive from fines and fees down a little bit to about 25,000. Our community does really good on returning things, so we like that. Fines we see will be going probably a little lower. On the fees, we did lower them due to the fact that the fees are from faxing, copies being made through the library, notary stamps when people come in and need those. We have, in this year, had to pull back on some of those offerings while the library was closed due to the HVAC issues, so we know that revenue is going to be a little lower for a while. As people have went other spots for that, we need to regain some of that going forward. So, any questions at this point with the budget numbers?
Your interest earned changed drastically.
Our interest did change. We sat down with Commerce Bank and asked them what we could do. They are allowing us, we've went into a different type of holding account where I'm going to call it a market sweep. I don't think that is quite the proper term for it. At the end of the day, they will take money out of our account, and Commerce Bank uses that to invest overnight. The money is still secured 100% by underlying bonds, so the library is never at risk of losing any money. And then at the beginning of the day, the money is swept back in. We are never at risk of bouncing a check or not having that come back in. And it has greatly increased the income that we could earn. So.
Well, in 24, your interest earned went from 4.9 down to now 4,900. That's.
Well, we're just through part of the year.
Okay, or not 4,900, but.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they pay, we get that, we don't get the money nightly. It comes in almost quarterly.
As a new commissioner and seeing your proposal for the first time, I'm surprised and impressed by 74,459 visits to your library last year. I never knew that many people still utilize the library services. In a way, you could say that you're one of the top attractions in Finney County. I mean, really, for the funding that and so I'm just very impressed with that number.
I'll let Pam go into the nuts and bolts on that number. I'll pass it over to Pam.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Pam Tuller, Director at the Finney County Public Library. You guys received a link to our annual report, which is very pretty online and not pretty printed. So if you get a chance to look at that, we would appreciate that. Again, that's going to give you all these fun numbers. This is kind of just a snapshot of those numbers. And I did bring comparisons if you guys have any questions about what we've done in past years, all the way back to 2019. But this last year, we had over 94,000 checkouts, both physical and digital copies of materials. And when I say materials, we're not just talking books and audiobooks. We have cake pans. We have 257 different cake pans. We have board games. We have 73 board games for you to check out. You can check out a wattage meter from Wheatland Electric at the library, so you can check your wattage at your home. We have all kinds of things that we call a library of things, so that You can try them before you buy them, or you can just have them because you need them once. We had over 66,000, almost 67,000 Wi-Fi usages in last year, and over 8,400 computer usages. So we have 26 public computers that people can come in and use. They are filtered so that they are appropriate. They are filtered special for children to cover the SEPA Act. And we are able to offer all kinds of things. People come to the library for more than just books. They come to be there as well. We have Dorothy's Room, which is a play area for children, along with where all of those books are available, and the Nature Explore area. People come just to come to that, and whether they get a book or not. That's where you're seeing that incredible number of 75,000 people coming to the library.
Are you ready for questions?
Absolutely.
I'm going to start. Your request represents approximately a 20% increase over the previous year. And there is no way that we're going to be able to increase outside agency funding at 20%. And it's very hard to look at all the agencies that are on the list for today and say, well, some got 0 and the library got 20. So if you can, explain to me why you think the library should receive close to $800,000 in capital improvements in the heating and air conditioning units paid for by the county, plus an additional $200,000 from general fund monies for outside agency requests.
We understand that the budget is hard to hit right now with everything that is going on in the county and state. We would like to try to work up to the 1.9 mils to start being more self-sufficient and not continually coming back to the county asking for money. Most of the increase is trying to go into repairs, capital improvements, to help offset larger asks later when larger items do break. The HVAC issues throughout the last 18 months to 2 years has really brought to light with the library board that we need to start getting more of the money in funds that the board can control, so we can choose when to do the upgrades and have a little bit more say in what we are getting. That way, we wouldn't have all of the HVACs at once. We might have been able to upgrade a few. We probably, hopefully, wouldn't have been in the position of having to close the doors or go into a less restrictive time frame of being open.
Well, I like to be seen and known as somebody who speaks their mind, and I think you're asking too much. And it also, at the same time, is important work of the library to have a facility. I do not want to see another winter where you're closed. Folks have my email and they like to use it. And the citizenry of this county demonstrated that your opening, your availability, your sources of information, your services are not just kind of necessary, they're much needed. And so I support the mission of the library. I think you should know that. But I think your ask is too high, and we'll have to work around the parameters of the votes that we can get to meet your request.
Right. We understand that. We wanted to shoot high in the hopes that the county wins the Powerball, frankly.
One of the things that makes politics a fun thing is that we have an upcoming vote in November for a half-cent sales tax to do major projects that are much needed. If we can hold the line on the ad valorem rate, we'll have a better chance of telling the taxpayers that we're doing our best. I can't see us being able to do everything for everybody.
Correct.
Please keep that in mind. We'll need your help.
Yes.
Thank you. Other questions?
I just have a comment that it has come to, and I do have a position on the library board, and it has come to our attention that perhaps we need to make some adjustments in agreements that the county has with the library board with regard to maintenance and things like that. So we are attempting to address those things, and that will make a difference as well in the library's ask.
All right, very good. I know that that's something that you work with every month, Vice Chairman. I do realize that. Okay, a motion to take this request under advisement.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to take the Finney County Library request of $1.206 million under advisement. Without further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Moving right along, we'll next hear from FDSI.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Do you all have your packets? 'Cause I have some extras.
I don't need an extra. Others, commissioners? All right, very good. Proceed, sir. Please announce for the viewing public.
So my name is Steve Sandoval. I am the President and CEO for SDSI. Some of you all may be more familiar with Mark Hind, who was our President and CEO for, 33 years, I think? Or he worked for SDSI for 33 years, but he officially retired last July, and so this is my first go-around to the counties. But I'm no stranger to SDSI. I've worked for SDSI for 30 years myself, so I'll just jump right in. SDSI is a 501c3 not-for-profit. We were formed in 1974. We cover 18 counties. We are the Community Developmental Disability Organization for 18 counties. We serve 1,133 individuals in that 18-county area. We are the single point of entry, so anyone entering the intellectual and developmental disability system, they come through SDSI. We determine eligibility. We have some quality assurance processes that we oversee, and then some other duties that you'll see in the packet. So one of the things that's unique with SDSI is we have a local finance plan, and so county meal that we get from all counties, and then our state aid that we get from the state, we put into a local spending plan. And so since Medicaid doesn't cover all the needs, we take that local finance plan money and we develop some categories, and we address the supports that our system needs that aren't funded by Medicaid. And I'll go into some of those later in the presentation. Then you'll see our revenues from the state of Kansas and some of the monies that we do pull out of local county mills from each county so that to fund our budget. On page 2 is the statute that refers to the relationship between a county and a community development disability organization. So a county can choose to be a community developmental disability organization, or you can designate or choose contract with an entity like us. Most of the state does it the way we do it. Here in our area, they contract or designate with a nonprofit like us, and then we contract with the state of Kansas. It's just an efficiencies of money. Some of the larger counties like Sedgwick County or maybe Johnson County, they're just a little bigger operations. So. Page 3 is our actual budget request. And so we've done a couple different methodologies over the last year. We've done county population. We've done, what else have we done, Craig? We've done population and as well as evaluation. Yeah, and so what we've tried to do is come up with a methodology that is pretty stable. I mean, some of the funds that we use this for, we want it to be, when agencies set their budget that we affiliate with, that we want this fund to be stable. So we ended up on valuation this year, and you'll see Finney County, and then the percent of the total of the 18 counties, and then the admin that we pull off for our operations, and then our request per evaluation, and then our 2026 request. And then on the far right, you'll see the 2025 request, and then what we actually received. So we understand that in western Kansas, a lot of the counties are shrinking, not necessarily, I didn't look at Finney County, but so we get what we get, and we understand that. Page 4 is the local finance plan and the categories that we do, we use for that local finance plan. Adult services is for folks that are Medicaid, not Medicaid eligible, but they're still in your communities. We use some of the local funds to fund them as an ad-need type, on an ad-need type basis. The big ticket item is transportation in western Kansas. We travel a little more than maybe like, let's say, Sedgwick County, who's all centralized, or Johnson County, who's all centralized. We have to cover a lot of area. Medicaid ineligible case management, that's been a good category for us. When you have 2 working parents in a family, sometimes even if they're not wealthy, they meet that threshold or they pass that threshold for Medicaid, and so they may be eligible for the system, or their family member may be eligible for the system, but because of income, they're not eligible for Medicaid. And so we can use some of that, our local county monies, to give those folks some Medicaid, and that gets spread out through the counties. And that's been helpful. You know, sometimes families, they don't need someone working in their homes. They may need somebody to navigate the benefit system or navigate the healthcare system or the school systems. And so we can get that case management out to the folks in our area. We did a little project last year, so the Kansas legislature appropriated funds for 500 folks off the wait list. And for us, that was about 62 or over 60 individuals in our area. We used some of this money to incentivize some of the providers to accept these folks into services. What we didn't want was individuals to be waiting 10 years on the waiting list. And if you have questions about that, we can go into that. But waiting 10 years and not be able to access services because they didn't have a provider. Our providers face a lot of the same issues that other providers across the state, and maybe some other businesses in our area. They have a hard time hiring and retaining staff. I mean, we're just competing for all about the same pool. So, and being a care provider is difficult. So. On page 5 is our list of providers. Some are day and residential providers, some are case management providers. I'll point out one on other services, Forever Home Renovation. That's a new entity in our area. I don't know that we have to affiliate with them anymore, but because they're just going to be a service provider across the state. But they're able to do home modifications, and we do get a lot of requests for that. It's just that we haven't had a company that was able to do that, and so we're happy to have them in our area. We'll go on to page 6. 6 is the list of duties that a community developmental disability organization have to do. I talked about being the single point of entry, so anyone coming into the system, in our 18 counties, they come through us. We have some quality assurance responsibilities. We do some gatekeeping for folks in and out of the state hospitals or private institutions. And then for us in Finney County, we do property management. So we have 3 HUD projects with about 122 units between Garden City and Liberal. Those are expensive. The folks in our system are hard on our properties. Staff are too. And so we spend a lot of money trying to keep them livable. HUD has their own requirements, and then fire marshals have theirs also. So we spend some money on that. Page 8 is our org chart, and we cover 18 counties with a pretty lean staff. You'll see that I'm the only difference on there, where Mark used to be the president CEO. I am currently. Page 9 is just some information we like to present every year. So in 2024, we had 82 applications for services. Of those 82, 69 were determined eligible, and 5 of those were determined ineligible, and then 7 didn't finish the process, and 1 is still pending. And it's been a little bit more difficult as personal health information has become a big topic for everybody. We have some barriers or struggles always getting the diagnosis information we need to determine eligibility. So, as I was talking about, the waiting list is a 10-year list. So as of March 13, 2025, there was 4,462 individuals on the wait list. A year ago, there was 778 more. As I said earlier, the state had or the legislature had allocated funds for 500 individuals, and the state was able to add a couple more hundred just through attrition. For our 18-county area, there's 335 individuals on the waiting list. And then our oldest application is way back in 1/15 of 2015, so about 10 years, close to 10 years. Page 10 is a home and community-based monthly summary that the state puts out monthly. And just if you go down to the intellectual and developmental disability waivers section, you'll see that there's 9,474 individuals in the intellectual and developmental disability system statewide, and then there's 4,462 folks still waiting. We are making improvements, I think, as far as offering folks off that wait list, but still 10 years is a little bit of a hardship for folks. You don't know what you're going to be doing in 10 years. So, but we're not unlike a lot of states. Page 11 is the breakdown or the state map for community developmental disability organizations. You'll notice that we cover the southwest 18 counties in the southwest, 13 in the southwest corner, and 5 around the Barton County area. Our numbers, they're 21 on the map. There's some things going on in the state right now. They're talking about conflict of interest, and I don't know if you all attend your annual meetings, but it may come up in the future. They're separating community developmental disability organizations away from direct service providers. For us, that doesn't mean anything. We are separate, so SDSI doesn't provide any services, so we are a conflict-free community developmental disability organization. The majority of the state isn't, so there's going to be some big changes. I don't know what that means for us, but it might mean we would cover more area if some of these other neighbors decided they didn't want to be it would be easier for them to contract with us than to develop a whole new company to do that. So maybe some changes on our plate. Page 12 is our list of board members. Zach Schultz is our Finney County rep, and you see that we have several vacancies, and I am working on those. Some counties have been empty for a while, or have not had a representative on our board for a while, but that's what we're doing. Pawnee's, I think we have somebody from Pawnee, and we probably will have someone from Stevens. So I will pause for questions.
Thank you. Any questions, commissioners? Just note that I'll be recusing from this one because of Zach's work.
Yes.
I'll make a motion that we take it under advisement.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to take SDSI's request under advisement of $198,983 for the 2026 budget. Hearing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And please note that I abstain. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
A little ahead of schedule, but we'll take up Russell Child since they're here.
Good morning.
Good morning. Please announce all who
Okay, I will be happy.
those you have with you.
Happy to do that. Thank you for the opportunity, too, for our staff to come and represent Russell Child Development Center. and our request for our early intervention program. I'm Rebecca Clancy, and I'm the CEO of RCDC, and I have with me Stephanie Wills, who is our early intervention program director, and I also have Remy Clark with us, who is one of our speech language pathologists, as well as a board member. Mr. Jeff Christ has joined us this morning in our support as well. I know there's some new faces on the your council, and so we like the opportunity to get to tell you a little bit more about RCDC and our beginnings, and we have been around since 1965 and serving families and helping them thrive for many decades. Today we're coming before you to request funding, particularly for our early intervention Part C program. That is the program that provides direct services to children that qualify with delays or disabilities from the age of birth until their 3rd birthday. We provide this service in 13 counties in southwest Kansas. There are 29 early intervention programs in the state of Kansas. And in 2024, I was looking for my number, the state of Kansas served 11,600 children with Part C services. RCDC served 580 children in 2024, with 294 of those children residing in Finney County. So 50% of the population we serve is in Finney County. I'm going to let Stephanie talk a little bit more about what those direct services look like, and I want to make time for Remy to talk about her service with families, and then I'll circle back and talk about our ask.
Thank you, Rebecca. Sorry, a little taller. As Rebecca said, we are Special Education Part C for IDEA. We serve 13 counties out here in western Kansas. Our providers include early childhood special education teachers, occupational therapists, nurses, SLPs, social workers, and bilingual interpreters. And then we also contract with 3 PTs to do our work as well. For a child to qualify for our program, like Rebecca said, they do have to qualify by having a diagnosis or a delay. They can have a delay in a 25% delay in one area or a 20% delay in 2 areas. We determine that by doing a play-based assessment. When we do an assessment, we look at the whole child, and we look at all of their skills in every area of development and determine whether they qualify for our services. If they do qualify for our services, we develop an IFSP, an individualized family service plan, and then we continue to provide services to the family. From the moment we get a phone call for a referral until we write that IFSP, we have 45 calendar days to get that completed, and that includes weekends. So we have to be really quick about getting into families and really getting started with those services with the families and offering them support. We do the coaching model, which means we help the family come up with strategies and really try to work with their routines to help that child work on the skills that they need to be developing. And we also do the primary service provider model. Each family has access to all of those providers I talked about, and then we choose one person to be the primary person, contact person, to be in there with the family. And then if they have questions or need more support, they can bring a joint visitor in. For example, if the teacher's in there and may need some support with motor, she can bring the PT in to offer some support as well. And that's kind of what the primary service provider model looks like. We also do family service coordination, which is helping families with doctor's appointments and things like that. We have a lot of families out here that travel to Denver, Wichita, Kansas City for appointments. So we really try to help families access those appointments. But we really try to teach families then how to do that on their own, because we are only in with the family until they turn 3. As Rebecca said, we transition to Garfield here in Garden City when kiddos turn 3. And we also have a partnership here with the hospital. And one of our nurses has access to the NICU, has floor access, and is able to help families and connect with families in the NICU and even the nurses. And I have a really exciting story. We had a kiddo that was in the NICU, well, actually wasn't in the NICU, was born here in Garden City and was born with a cleft palate. And they weren't able to get the child to nurse or to feed. And so our nurse was called in to give some support. She went to the hospital, was able to help the mom with feeding and help the nurses and the nurse practitioner that was on duty there. The child did not have to go to the NICU. We did not have to ship that child out. And now Remy is in with that child, giving them support and helping them with their feeding. So it was a great success story about how early intervention is so important to our communities. And so I'm going to let Remy kind of talk a little bit more about her services with the family and some other families.
Thank you. Good morning. It's good to see you all again. As Stephanie shared, I'm a speech therapist, and so a lot of the work I do is with children with communication delays and various disorders, and then also any feeding and swallowing challenges, which a lot of people don't realize is something we do. And so as she shared with that particular child, we were very thankful because if our nurse didn't show up, they probably would have sent him to Wichita or Kansas City, a bigger hospital, because they just didn't have the support needed to provide for that child. But luckily, we were able to get our nurse in, and he was actually able to be discharged home instead of being sent on to another hospital. And now it's my responsibility. I'm going and meeting with him out on a regular basis and helping mom with his feeding challenges and providing that support until he gets his surgeries done to fix his cleft lip and cleft palate. Something else I've been doing is many of the children I work with have possible long-term communication delays if they have a different diagnosis, or we're just seeing that communication isn't taking off as we would like. We have been using some augmentative and alternative communication, or that stands for AAC. I'm not sure if that's something you guys have ever heard about, but it's essentially just alternative ways that a child can communicate if we expect that verbal speech maybe is not progressing as we would like. And that can look various ways, but one way I've been doing that is helping families apply for a speech generating device. So that's like a tablet or an iPad that has different pictures and symbols, and that when you press the picture, it'll, say the word for you. And that's something that we've been able to actually fund through insurance. So that has been very exciting because as this child grows and progresses, they can keep this device with them as they go on to school in later years. And it kind of sets them up for that long-term success with communication. So that's just a few examples of children I've worked with. But again, as Stephanie said, we really we go into the families' homes and we work on what's important for them, and we provide them different strategies to help with their communication in all areas of their development. Also do a lot of family service coordination, as she mentioned, so helping families apply for Medicaid, or with the child with the cleft palate, helping him get set up with the cleft palate clinic in Kansas City so that he has his appointment set up with them, helping arrange transportation and things so that the family's successful at getting there. And then for some families, helping them get on that wait list for SDSI, as the last presenter mentioned, helping the child become eligible if that's something we see maybe long-term is needing some additional support. So that's kind of my job in a nutshell. Do you guys have any questions for me?
Questions, commissioners?
I'm going to refer back to our little packet here for you, and I didn't realize how challenged I am on height. But if you'll go to page 2, that will show you all the staff that are assigned to Finney County. And many of them are local staff members. They live here with their families and are residents of Finney County as well. So that's our team that Stephanie has designated to come out and go to homes, into the child's natural environment, and provide these valuable services. It's also important to mention that we can't have a wait list. And Stephanie talked about the 45 days that she has to get all the paperwork done, but we also can't have a wait list, and our services are free to families. So we are not charging them for those services as we go to their homes. On page 3, you can see the 13 counties we serve. And in 2024, there's the Finney County number I mentioned before of serving 294 children. And our total is 580 for the year of 2024. On page 4, we have our preliminary budget estimate for you to look at and review. And these are our best estimates of what we are looking at. And our Part C salary line is if we are fully staffed, which currently we're not completely fully staffed, but you can see what our operating budget is, and then what we anticipate to bring in with Medicaid reimbursement, which is state reimbursement, not federal dollars. Then what we anticipate with KSDE special education categorical aid and transportation reimbursement. That is much like the local school districts, how they can bring in those dollars as well with categorical aid. And then our grant, our main grant for this work is through KDHE. And it does include some federal and state dollars. And we were told to calculate based on what we received last year. They work that number by numbers served. They have told Stephanie and I last month at a meeting that there will be some budget cuts to anticipate that, but we're still anxiously waiting to know exactly what that will be. So the number we've applied in there, that 821, is what we were funded at last year. We show you what our anticipated deficit is. And KDHE does award these 29 grants throughout the state. They do so knowing that each Part C provider is going to have to be very committed and hustle hard to do some fundraising and secure some additional grants. So we have consistently been able to do that and work very hard at that. We are able to receive a FINUP grant and Finney County United Way grant, Seward County United Way grant, which all help pay for direct salary cost for early intervention staff. We also do a very concentrated effort on fundraising, and fundraising helps contribute to closing that gap as well. On page 5, we do like to be very transparent. We come out and visit with all 13 counties and their county commissioners, so we like to show you what we have asked every county that we ask for support for in this program. We are showing you back from 2020 to current, and we greatly appreciate the $112,500 that you all gave us for this past year. And we are coming before you requesting $166,000. We base that on the population and the population served. And you can glance through that and kind of see where the other counties fall into place. Since this is a federally mandated service that all children who qualify receive this service, we value and appreciate the local community support from counties to help support your youngest citizens. And the return on investment by supporting children now and supporting families now is 13% annual return on investment. If we can invest now and get these kids caught up in many cases, transition to Part B, many don't even need Part B, or if they do need lifelong services, they are better prepared, as are their families, to step into that role and start advocating for their child and meet their success and all their developmental goals as uniquely as they can and be contributing members of the community. I would stand for questions, as would Stephanie and Remy, and I'm sure if you have any questions for Jeff as serving on our board, we'd entertain any questions you might have.
All right, commissioners, questions for Russell Child?
I don't have any questions.
All right, motion to table?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to table.
Second. Move second to table this and take it under advisement. Your request this year, if I did my math correctly, is $166,000. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We'll take it under advisement. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
With that, I would like to make a couple of concluding remarks regarding our hearings this morning. We have 2 additional hearings scheduled for Monday, May 19th, Finney County CVB and Finney County Fair. But if you look at the total number of 2025 approved outside agency requests, is 3.415 million. The requests from our outside agencies this year is 4.369 million, roughly 27.9% or 28% increase. We haven't offered employees that kind of an increase, 5% the last 2 years. The outside agencies are important. We hear all the great work that they're doing. It'll be our job to hold the line on the mill levy. Constitutes about 6.15 mills for the outside outside agencies. And with that, do we have any other business before the commission? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. Moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.